Another bullet hit the saddle tree with an angry thwack of splintering wood, followed quickly by the bellow of a big bore rifle somewhere in the distance. The man down on his belly behind the dead horse pressed himself tighter to the earth. The midday heat reflected off the prairie like hot iron held to an anvil, and sweat salt stung his eyes. He spat the dirt from his lips and brushed at the splattered bits of bone and horse brains that dotted his face before he craned his neck around enough to glare up at the sun hanging there blurred and shimmering as though it too were his enemy. After that gunshot had faded away, there was no sound but the incessant buzz of a blowfly. The fly's fat blue body flitted lazily about, drawn to the smell of guts and putrid death. The first shot had taken the horse in the flank and busted its paunch. A great loop of intestines and half-fermented belly juice had spilled out onto the ground while the horse thrashed and struggled in pain, and before the second bullet struck it in the head and put it out of its misery. Despite the smell and the heat, and despite his cramped muscles and the fear, the man behind the dead horse remained still. He fought off the temptation to peer over his saddle enough to see if he could spot his attacker, for he knew to do so was to die. From the direction of the shots, the rifleman was positioned somewhere on the hilltop several hundred yards on the far side of the dead horse, which now sheltered him. And a man that could hit a horse in the head from so far away was a man that could hit about anything he wanted. It was an old game that the man behind the dead horse knew well, and the primary rule of that game was that the first one to make a wrong move died. The second rule was that there was no second-place winner. He pushed tighter against the horse carcass and looked up at his rifle stock, which he could see protruding out over the animal's flank. He wondered how quickly he could draw the gun out from under his stirrup leather and how much of himself he would have to expose by doing so, and for how long. A cackle of laughter sounded from out there on that far-off hilltop, wicked and raspy and more than half-crazed. "Clyde!" The same voice called out, and it drug out the name so slow that it was like an echo. The man behind the horse didn't answer. "Hey there, Clyde!" the voice repeated. The man behind the dead horse did not want to hear that voice, but he was not shocked at the sound of it. He had known all along who it was out there, without so much as laying eyes on him. And that was the bitterest thing of all, lying there, knowing he had been ambushed by the man he himself had sworn to kill. But that was another rule of the ancient, bloodthirsty game of men hunting men. The hunter often turned into the hunted.